All right. Thank you so much, guys. Without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic to Jen Van Houte. Jen is the Assistant Vice President of Account Services at Central States Health and Life of Omaha. So thank you, Jen. Come on up.
Okay, awesome. Good afternoon. Glad to see all of you here and all of you online that I can't see. Takes pressure off that way. It's good. Claire's gonna grab the clicker. Hopefully you had some lunch, got to move around, all that good stuff. Thank you, thank you. Let's see here if I get this going the right way. Okay, Jen Van Houte, Assistant Vice President, CSO, just down the road. This is kind of funny. So I have a bachelor's degree in secondary education. I have a master's degree in computer information systems. I'm here at the data bank OnBase day. I've never taught a day of school. I don't work in the IT department, and I don't work in the document services area of CSO. So what I do is I work in the administration area. So my teams are the ones, we're a small insurance company. We offer credit, life, and disability insurance, excuse me, debt protection products. Our channels of distribution are auto dealers, banks, credit unions. If you went out, bought a car, and the finance guy offered you life and disability insurance just on that loan, it's my insurance. Or if you secured a loan, they offer you life and disability, that's my insurance. So I only insure just the 5 years, 4 years of that loan. The part that gets important is those insurance documents that come in for us to process. That's what we'll focus on today. So my little tiny agenda is we decided we were going to go big or go home. We had a huge project to tackle, and we did that right after COVID. We'll talk about why we moved to workflow, our project, roadblocks, how we got there, what we learned. So Claire was really helpful, kind of walked me through, we set this up, but Claire, after I started putting it together, we should have called it the cool stuff we built. But that's okay. So CSO is just a small little company. We've been in business for over 90 years now. We offer those credit protection products through our different channels that I mentioned. With our little team of less than 20 people, though, it turns out we process over 300 pieces of paper every single day. And when you think about that, that's kind of like when he was talking about the bajillions of pieces of paper in the warehouse, a little smaller scale, but we're passing all of this paper around. And we're thinking we're doing fine. And then we had this thing called a pandemic, and then we weren't doing fine anymore. So we'd had this project on the docket for a while to digitize these documents at the front end instead of the back end. And you know, it's easy to put it off. Other things will help you make money, but then this thing called a pandemic came and hit. So we really had to address that right then. So we gathered up our Husker spirit and we jumped right in. So why did we do it? COVID, but then also document access. When all your papers come in and you don't digitize them to the end, you don't know what you have. You can't look at it. The only way to see it is I'm gonna go to your desk and I'm gonna look in your pile. No, it's not in your pile. I'm gonna look in your pile. I'm gonna hope for the best, right? It's not a great way to manage your document access. And right hand in hand with that, workforce management. If you're gonna go out for a week, how much paper is gonna sit on your desk and stay there because you're gone, right? I can't just reassign, well, I can take it and move it, but I have to be there to do that, right? So I got workforce management issues. And then finally, of course, disaster recovery. You hope that you can get into your office every day and work, right? But what if you can't? Now you have a disaster recovery problem with all this new business that hasn't been registered, documented, marked. It's all sitting there and it's at risk. So those are the whys. So we needed to sit there, we need to stop, identify the goals of our project, look at the timing, and then do our discovery and our design. We really wanted our workflow solution to walk hand in hand with our processing of our paper. maybe we were a little different because we didn't want workflow to be the processing. I have a processing system. We have, it's meant for processing our insurance. I just needed OnBase to walk those documents to the right people, get the proper approvals, catch the right keywords, be searchable, be identifiable, but walk alongside my processing system, not be my processing system. So I had to be careful that I wasn't adding steps for my employees, because we would get all wrapped up through our design and think, oh, we need it to do this, this, and this. No, 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 no. My processing system already does that. Let me be very careful about which system handles what piece, okay? Otherwise, I'm gonna have to rehire everybody. I don't wanna do that. So we started our discovery and design. Elise was a very big piece of that. She came in new with our team. Our data bank team was fantastic. Our hands were tied a little because of that darn pandemic. We couldn't invite them to the office to see what we were working with. So some things about our processes were a little hard to translate over phones and video calls. So it took a little longer, I think, that way. And our CIO retired in the very beginning part of it. You know, we were shut down, all that good stuff. But we had our Husker spirit, we had our go big or go home mentality, and we kept it going. So we did have some roadblocks, but those roadblocks did bring some great innovations, okay? This is gonna get kind of boring, but I hope you can stick with me, okay? We wanted to bring our mail. The post office drops off the mail, and they drop off all these envelopes of new business for us. Those envelopes, one envelope is from ABC Dealer, one's from XYZ Bank. This envelope has 50 new policies in it. This one has 2 new policies. This one has 200 new policies. In our system, we called that an envelope because we wanted it to be like the mail, right? This is where, when I've been listening to everybody this morning, everybody's documents that came in, like, that whole document was about one adoption, or it was about one court filing, or one AP invoice, right? My documents come in, I have 100 different insurance policies, one for you, one for you, one for you, one for you. But they were submitted by ABC Dealer. So when they start their life cycle, they get logged in as ABC Dealer. That's how the keyword that goes in is ABC Dealer, but it's got 100 pages on it. When it ends, and when it gets to the end and it's processed, that's 100 different credit insurance certificates, each with its own credit insurance or a contract number, policy number. So its final commitment to OnBase is a cert number, not ABC Dealer number. That's tricky for OnBase and workflow, sending things from, what I call it hopping the fence, from my workflow side of the fence over to my committed to saved side of the fence. It's tricky, and I'll tell you why. You can do document separation, say create a new document, and that's what we do. We fill in the rest of the keyword, we send it over, but now it's a new document, it has no document history. So some of you have talked about, like, oh, I know who did what and when. I knew it until I clicked create new document. Then I don't know it anymore. So that was a roadblock for us. Amazingly boring for the rest of the world, except for hopefully this room. The other thing we had to tackle is, what do you do when you're done? So we have these documents, they go from like a prep queue to a keying queue to a level 1 review. Level 1, they might get finished, they might hop that fence over to being a certificate. They might have to get past to level 2. They get to level 2, then those get done. We worked all of this, and then we had to figure out, what do you do when you're done? We had to make an exit queue. And when we get a set of like 200 new certificates, which we're all happy about, that's great income for CSO, but I didn't want my people to have to do the indexing and put the cert number on each and every one of those. We actually had people who that was their job. When it was paper, we would send down this much paper at a time, and they would just index. That's when they got scanned, and they would put the cert numbers and the date and the doc type and all that. So I had people to do that. So I didn't want my people to have to do that when there were so many pages. So we made a disposition in our exit queue that said either commit, meaning do the thing where you put the cert numbers on, or I did them all. I got down to the last page that's really just a copy of the envelope it came in, hit the delete. I have a delete disposition, and that tells the people at the end down in our QSS department, either delete it or process it, get them saved over to I say saved over to OnBase. They're in OnBase either way, but it's hard to, I still don't know the right words. Somebody could help me, that'd be great. Then we have business, our business comes in mail, email, we have secure uploads, we have Pony Express. Just kidding. We stopped that last year. But we'll take our business however we can get it, okay? So then I wasn't scanning it, or I could get it in my email and print it and scan it, but that just seemed ridiculous. So we had a really great in-house solution where he's retired now, a great IT guy who built a little print driver thing. Our people can be looking at a PDF document, they can click file print, click a particular print driver, and it takes that doc, and they get asked maybe 2 or 3 questions about what kind of document it is. Then it takes that PDF, converts it to a TIFF, and dumps that thing right in OnBase for us based on the answers to their questions, and boom, they're ready to go. So that was a lifesaver on our electronic documents. So under the category of, things we learned along the way and great innovations. So how did we do? We have our document access, our workflow management, our disaster recovery. How are my people doing working from home? All those things. You know what? We did great. Our data bank people were phenomenal because we spent a lot of time on the phone, right, Elise? I worked with Jacqueline and Sean and John, and we spent a lot of time putting together our statement of work. We had never used workflow. We've been using OnBase to store our documents for years, right? I know how to do a keyword in OnBase. I know how to look it up. I can do a search. I can do all kinds of things, right? I didn't know what this thing called workflow could do. So we had to write this statement of work, not really knowing what we were doing, right? But the team at DataBank really did a great job of talking us through it, what's possible. We had great IT guys on our team that we would say, well, our processing system knows about this. What part can workflow know about? How can these 2 things stay step in step? Because I can't have my cart and my horse getting out of order on here. Everybody has to stay in line without double doing the work. So the 2 teams worked together fantastic. It might have taken us a little longer to get through that. And then I was speaking, I think, with Chris. We're a small company. We don't have project managers. I don't really have to worry about scope creep. I've been working with my IT programmers for 20 years. They know me. They may not love me. But if my idea changes or I didn't get it right the first time, I'm not used to having to work within the constraints of a project plan. So that was a little confining, but everybody was super kind about it. We did have a little scope creep at the end because we had some surprises because we didn't know the tool very well at the end. We had to change a couple of things. The document separation thing was a bit of a challenge. We've got a solution. We're getting that figured out. But workforce management, I was just saying, my team of 4 customer service representatives, as of today, I got 2 husbands down, 1 buying a house and 1 with a planned day off. So, life happens and sometimes you got to work from home. Workflow is allowing us to do that, and it's life-changing for our staff. If you've got Nebraska Furniture Mart coming for a fridge, you don't have to take PTO anymore. You can be at home working on workflow, just as if you were in the office. It's fantastic. Proof is in the numbers. So the way that I monitor how my teams are doing is every month we do all of our stuff. We get all of our insurance documents in. We put them in our system, and our system calculates how much premium all that's worth, right? You key it all in, and at the end of the month, there's always a little bit that doesn't get processed. You might have to make a phone call. ABC dealer, you guys, they're terrible at getting back to you. Somebody's not licensed, whatever. Stuff stays what we call on pending. Well, now that we have workflow, I've followed these trends. I've looked at these reports and I've looked at these numbers, and we've reduced that pending number significantly over the last year and almost a half that we've been running this, because my people can get to the papers faster. They can get through their papers faster. It can make it from the mailroom to the prepper to the keyer to the reviews so much faster, because it's not, well, I'm gonna key all of these, then I'm gonna hold them, and then, oh, I'm gonna go to lunch. When I get back from lunch, now I'm gonna take them over here and I'm gonna put them on your desk. Where now they click, I'm done keying it, and boom, it's on the next person's desk. There's none of that holding it, right? Then we also sometimes had, well, I don't want anybody to take my work. I don't think I'm gonna be very busy, so I'm gonna put it over here, and it's gonna stay over here, and oh, now I can't come to work tomorrow because I got Nebraska Furniture Mart coming, and nobody knew I had the work over here, and it stayed over here. We don't have that anymore. It all flows through so much more efficiently. So I don't know, I feel like I'm a commercial for workflow right now, which I'm sure some people don't hate in this room. But yeah, I'm super excited about what we did. It was a huge project. Probably 75% of the mail that comes in our building is ours to process. So nothing like tackling your biggest hunk, right? We decided to make that our first workflow project. It's awesome. We love it. I think my next slide, yeah. So the future, our future looks bright with workflow projects. Way energized to start working on these, matter of priority, just like everybody else. It's not the only projects in the hopper. But our investment team, we're an insurance company, so investing that money is a big deal, right? Investment approvals, they want to build a workflow for that. New account onboarding, we're bringing on new dealers, new banks, new credit unions all the time. So that's kind of like contracts that you guys were talking about on the panel. We issue contracts to them. Some of them have to be licensed. So that new account onboarding, we want to build a workflow for that. And then everybody else, somebody said, oh, you always start with AP when you do a workflow. Not us. We started backwards. So we're going to work the APs then also. Those are on our upcoming list. So hopefully I didn't bore you too much. Anybody have any questions? I think I caught Claire off guard.
No, you're great. I'm gonna check and see if we have any coming in on our Q&A.
Alrighty.
It looks like we do.
Oh, go ahead. We have one in here.
Okay, perfect.
Bringing it all in digitally, how did your team react?
So the cool thing about a small company is, in order for me to do the testing, I had to have them be part of the testing. So that like led into their training. And let me just step back a little and say, during COVID, when we had to first send everybody home, here's what we were doing. And this is painful, and I'm a little embarrassed. Sorry to my boss who's watching that I'm letting this secret out. They were taking the business, scanning it in at the copier, and emailing it to a person that was at home. And that person was taking that PDF document and working it, and then sending it back and saying, okay, I did this one. And that's what we were doing. So they knew that once we got this into workflow, that was going away. So I had 100% buy-in, because that process was so painful. But Do you guys remember, I don't know if any of you had to do essential worker paperwork. You had to sign and say, yes, I'm an essential worker, and you had to like carry it in your briefcase. We had to do that. We had to do that. So that's, I just had buy-in because I made it so painful before we.
We do have a question online. Can you explain what you mean by kept in an envelope in OnBase?
So, okay, think about the mail. The mail from the post office comes in envelopes, right? So we were really just trying to mimic our mail process. So 100 pieces of paper come in a brown envelope from ABC dealer. And so we just named that envelope, an envelope, mail envelope in our system. You can label it whatever you want, right? You can call it batch, you can call it whatever. We just called it envelope. So hopefully that helps explain that.
So I just want to add a little bit. This is Dawn, by the way. But so there is an envelope feature inside of OnBase, and that is not what they were using.
Oh.
So we've got a bunch of OnBase experts here, right? So the envelope feature in OnBase is fantastic, but for what they were doing, that's just obviously it made sense to call it that inside of their business process. But they were not actually using the envelope feature in OnBase.
See, not an actual OnBase person. Business unit person driving IT people crazy.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Dawn. Any more questions from our group? Nope. Okay. Thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you.
That was great.